Hey everybody, welcome. First of all, I want to tell you that this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is not about making fun of poor. It's about simple mistakes that poor and middle class make so that you can eliminate those mistakes and you can become rich. So today's video includes importance of teaching financial literacy, and it also includes the one simple rule to get rich. It also includes some of the cash flow patterns of assets, liabilities, poor, rich, and middle class. And also we'll discuss that how do you know when you become rich. Okay, so let's start. In 1994, Robert Kiyosaki retired at age of 47. Now retiring does not mean not working. It means your wealth is at a point where if you work or don't work, your wealth keeps on growing. Your assets are large enough to grow by themselves. It's like planting a tree. You water it for years and now the point has come that you finally can sit down under its shade and you don't have to water it anymore because its roots have grown so deep down that it could grow on its own. Whenever I speak to groups of people, they ask me what I would recommend and what could they do in order to become rich. I'm always reminded of this article named as The Richest Businessmen. In 1923, the richest people on the planet owning world's largest companies gathered in a meeting in Chicago. 25 years later, 9 of them ended as follows. 1 died with no money left after living 5 years on borrowed money. 1 died broke, living on a foreign land. 2 more died broke. 1 went insane. 2 were just released from prison. 2 committed suicide. Now there was a giant market crash near to 1923. In 1929, in this world, which is changing faster than 1923's world, people believe money will solve their problem, which is not true. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is the money soon gone. Most people fail to realize that it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. We hear stories of lottery winners who won millions, but soon they have come to the position again where they started. Young athletes who make millions in their early 20s, they go broke until their late 30s. So when people ask me how to get rich or where do I get started, I usually reply them what my rich dad said to me. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. People who earn a lot and then go broke is because they are not financially literate. The only rule to get rich. Rich buy assets. Poor and middle class buy liabilities thinking that they are buying assets. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. Rich Dad believed in KISS principle. Now that is not the same KISS that you are thinking right now. It's keep it simple, stupid, or keep it super simple. Rich Dad told us the simple words. Anything that takes money out of your pocket is a liability, while anything that puts money into your pocket is an asset. For example, you buy a house and you live in it. It takes money out of your pocket as you have to pay for the electricity bills, taxes, and other expenses. So it's a liability. On the other hand, if you buy a house and rent it, now it's going to put money into your pocket, so it's an asset. Most people think their house is the largest investment and asset, which is not true. Because it is taking money out of their pocket. If you want to be rich, buy stuff that puts money into your pocket. We will take a look at some of the financial diagrams to understand cash flow. Cash flow of asset. Asset always puts money into your pocket, which means income. Cash flow of liability. Liabilities always take money out of your pocket, which means expenses. For example, if you have a credit card debt, it's a liability because ultimately you have to pay it at the end of the month. Cash flow pattern of poor. Poor person has only one source of income, which is usually a job, and all of their salary goes into their expenses and they buy no asset and no liability. As you can see in the picture, they have a job, they go to work, they get the salary and all of their salary goes into the expenses and they do not buy any assets or liability. Cash flow pattern of middle class. Middle class buy liabilities which they think are assets. They have credit card debt, student loans and mortgage, etc. which ultimately has to be paid someday, right? All of their earning goes into expenses and their income keep coming from one source, which is usually their job. Cash flow pattern pattern of rich. The rich person always have their income greater than their expenses. Their income comes from their asset, and after their expenses are met, they reinvest the rest of their income into their assets, which means their assets will increase as well as their income. That's why rich is getting richer. Owning a home earlier is a bad idea. Home is very emotional thing, but as a young person or couple, you shouldn't buy a house early on because it will become a liability and you will work harder to meet the expenses. Buying a house early on could impact you in 3 ways. Number 1, loss of time. Number 2, loss of additional capital. Number 3, loss of education. Loss of time is during which other assets would have grown in value, and the loss of additional capital is which could have been invested instead of paying for high maintenance expenses related directly to the home. Loss of education. Too often, people count their house and savings and retirement plans as all they have in their asset column. Because they have no money to invest, they simply do not invest. This costs them investment experience. Most never become what the investment world calls a sophisticated investor. And the best investments are usually first sold to sophisticated investors who then turn around and sell them to the people playing it safe. Now, it's totally alright to buy a house, but make sure you don't let your liabilities increase more than your assets. When I want a bigger house, I first buy the assets that will generate the income that will pay for the house and cover the expenses. How going for a safe, secure job is a bad idea. As an employee, you work for 3 entities and they get the most benefit, not you. Number 1, you work for the company. Number 2, you work for the government. Number 3, you work for the bank. Number 1, you work for the company. Employees make their business owner or the shareholders rich, not themselves. Your efforts and success will help provide for the owner's success and retirement, not yours. Number 2, you work for the government. The government takes its share from your paycheck before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increase the amount of taxes taken by the government. Number 3, you work for the bank. After taxes, your next largest expense is usually your mortgage and credit card debt. By paying that, you are only helping banks grow. The problem with working hard as an employee is that each of these 3 levels takes a greater share of your increased efforts. You need to figure out a way to benefit you and your family from your efforts directly. You can stay at a job and fund your acquisition of assets, but how do you know you have become wealthy or rich? Ask yourself, if I stopped working today, how long I could survive? When your assets generate equal amount of income to your expenses, then you are wealthy. For example, you have monthly expense of $2,000 and your assets now generating $2,000 a month as well. It means you're wealthy. If your assets generate a lot more income than your expenses, leaving the inflation way behind, and you can reinvest into your assets, then you are rich. As your reinvestment process continues, just remember these simple observations. The rich buy assets. The poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think they are assets. So these are the things that we have discussed from Rich Dad Poor Dad chapter 3. In case you want to buy the book, link is in the description. If you don't want to miss such important videos full of knowledge and wisdom and want to learn from the other people's experience, then subscribe and press the bell icon. Last but not least, thanks for being a part of this video.